You have a piece of steel manufactured before 1945. You have a treasure in your hands. Scientific institutions can offer you huge sums of money to buy this piece, such as medical institutions, space agencies, and NASA. What is the reason? So what is the difference between a piece of steel now and a piece manufactured before 1945? At the end of February 1942 on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, a naval battle took place between Japan and the U.S. Navy, and Japan won and estimated it was sinking 5 U.S. ships. Among them was the HMS Exeter, which was sophisticated at the time, in a battle that was known as the Battle of the Java Seas. In 2016, more than 70 years after this battle, authorities discovered that a group of divers had illegally lowered and excavated the water at the site of the shipwreck, taking a large amount of steel made from the exoskeleton of the sunken ship. Weighing more than 10,000 tons, this quantity was transported by small boats and smuggled. Although there are large quantities of copper and bronze in the ship, their value is greater than the value of iron. But when the authorities learned that the stolen iron was manufactured before 1945, they immediately understood why the steel was stolen. In the middle of the 19th century, he made iron by the Bessemer method, a method developed by Sir Henry Bessemer. He was an English engineer and inventor. As he was able to convert ordinary iron into steel through oxidation, he prepared iron ore and put it in furnaces at a temperature of 1300 degrees Celsius, and then pumped a large amount of air into the furnaces. Air heated excess carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, and other elements mixed with iron that reduced its durability, floating on the surface of the molten iron, and then removing them. We are left with iron free of any impurities, due to the idea of introducing air. After that, there was a great shift in the industry. Instead of the metal industries, cast iron and wrought iron were used, so steel was used heavily, especially since back iron and wrought iron have a very short lifespan. Their durability is much lower than steel, so steel has been used in the construction of railways, bridges, ships, buildings, and others. Steel is now manufactured in the same way as Bessemer, and despite the development of furnaces, air pumping has remained a key element in the industry. What does this have to do with the iron manufactured before 1945? The reason is that in 1945, the first nuclear test ever took place. On July 16, 1945, the American Army, through the secret Manhattan Project, conducted a nuclear test in the desert of New Mexico, 56 kilometers from the American city of Socorro, and they called it the Trinity test, which completely changed the shape of the world, not only on the military and political level, but on the chemical level. The bomb launched into the air a large amount of radioactive isotopes that did not exist in nature before, such as plutonium, cesium, and others, and during 35 years of Trinity test, more than 1,000 other nuclear experiments were conducted, such as the experiments of the United States of America, Russia, France, China, and Britain, especially during World War II. All of these experiments led to the spread of isotopes, radioactive in huge quantities in the atmosphere, to the extent that the composition of the air has changed since then, which affected the iron industry. When pumping air during the manufacture of steel now enters with it quantities of radioactive materials, so radioactive materials enter the manufacture of steel iron. In any piece of steel made after 1945 contains a percentage of radioactive materials, but a small percentage is ineffective and there is no health damage. The problem arises when researchers want to manufacture sensitive and accurate devices, such as the Geiger meter, or devices that measure the proportion of radiation. These devices cannot be made with steel that contains a percentage of radioactive materials, as there will be an overlap between the radioactive materials from which iron is made and the percentage of radiation that the device is trying to measure, so the results are inaccurate. So what is the solution for the manufacture of these devices? The solution is to use solid iron that does not contain radioactive materials. So we use steel manufactured before 1945 as it does not contain any radioactive materials. Iron manufactured before 1945 is called pre-war steel, and its market value is very high, with researchers paying huge sums of money. What is known is that researchers can make pure steel without radioactive materials in their own laboratories, but this will cost them very large efforts and sums, so they turn to extracting steel from ships sunken in the seas. In conclusion of this video, I would like to express my deep gratitude to everyone who watched this video and spent some time with us. We appreciate your support and interest in our content. We hope that the video added value to you and that you enjoyed it and benefited from it. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions for future videos, feel free to share them with us in the comments.